This is me. I am Chuck Klosterman. And this is sort of like an audiobook, but not exactly. This is more like a director's commentary or sort of an author explaining what the book was supposed to be and what it became. I'm not going to read the entire book straight through. These are magazine articles and web articles for the most part. Many of them involve interviews, and I'm not going to do impersonations of the people I interviewed, particularly during Q&As. This is more like what I remember about these stories, and hopefully what you will take away from the book had you read it. Have you ever been in a situation where you're reading a story online and it's interesting, but you've run out of time? You don't have the time to read it, or something gets in the way, or you just don't feel like you want to be engaged with something for 40 minutes. So you jump down to the comments, and you think, I'll just read the comments and see what those people said. And then you realize, of course, that some of the people in the comments didn't read the story either, but they're just giving you a sense of what they think the story is about, or what the takeaway could be or should be. Well, this is kind of like that, except all the people in the comments are going to be the person who wrote the actual stories. So if you go to a party and this book comes up or my name comes up in some unlikely world, or if any of the individuals I write about or any of the ideas I touch on come up in a conversation, you can reference this book and sort of talk about it as if you did read it. But you didn't, although no one will know. The first section of this book falls under the rubric, like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. This, of course, is the motto or the theme of the soap opera, Days of Our Lives. But I don't write about soap operas in this section. To me, these are just sort of the larger ideas I wrote about over the last 10 years that, for whatever reason, still seem to stick in my mind. The very first story here is titled Three-Man Weave. I feel it's the best story I've ever done. I don't know if everyone would agree with that. In fact, I think a lot of the people who mostly see me as sort of a music journalist or a celebrity journalist might argue otherwise. But to me, this is the one that I feel best about, I guess. Partially because it came out on the very first day that Grantland existed. Grantland was this website started by Bill Simmons, and it was really kind of under the microscope because people on the internet are obsessed with Bill Simmons, particularly with the idea of him starting a website. It was a complicated story to do. The research took a long time and was kind of unorthodox. I tried to write it in a real straightforward way. And I do think that sort of some of like the socioeconomic underpinnings of the story are a little more meaningful than the sociocultural underpinnings of sort of the celebrity work I have done, or however you want to look at it. But the main reason that I like this story so much is I just sort of thought it would be the kind of story I would never be able to do. This thing happened to me in 1988, where I went to a basketball game with my older brother, and it was a junior college game that wasn't on television. It wasn't even on the radio. Only a few places even covered it in the newspaper. There were 500 people in the audience. It was a tournament game in a junior college tournament in Wahpeton, North Dakota. And everything about it should be forgettable. Like, it should be the kind of game that is lost to history. We have this one school, junior college, that the Lumberjacks was their nickname because it was the North Dakota State University of Bottineau satellite campus where forestry is sort of the main major, playing the United Tribes, which is this Native American college near Bismarck. And nothing about it should be meaningful except how the game unspooled. The United Tribes showed up with only 5 players, and they finished the game with 3 players. 2 of them fouled out. So they played a large chunk of the game 5-on-3, and they won. They won 84-81. It was just this sort of amazing, unbelievable event to me. Still, I mean, the most sort of stunning sporting event I ever experienced. And, this was a long time ago. And the years kind of, rolled by, and I started to wonder did I really see this game? Did this really happen? Or did I see something close to this? And over time, I've sort of constructed a different kind of memory about what had happened. So I went back and I researched this event. I just went back and tried to find everything I could about this game, even though there wasn't even an official box score for this thing. But what I remembered was true. And it was just a very satisfying experience to recreate this event, which, if not for this story, probably would have been forgotten by every individual in the world outside of the people who actually played in this game. I would talk to some of the kids who played for United Tribes. One guy in particular, a kid named Barry Webster, who was their best player. He was their point guard. And, I called him on the phone, and it took me forever to find him, but I finally did. And Grantland, this website, was, sponsored by ESPN. So I hear him like yelling at his kid, it's like ESPN's on the phone talking about my basketball career. And I can tell that his kid's like, what are you talking about? This isn't true. I don't think he even totally believed it, although he was also oddly unsurprised that I called. All of these guys, when I called him up to talk about this basketball game that had happened all these years ago, they all seemed to remember their exact statistics. Like it really stayed with them. And, I understand why. It was just a neat thing to experience, and it was a neat thing to reintroduce back into the world. My relationship with Grantland was kind of complicated. Simmons had contacted me way before it ever launched, and we kind of talked about what this could be. The original idea was very different than what it became. It did become very successful, but then my relationship with the website kind of changed. I drifted away from it, started writing the Ethicist column for the New York Times, and I was writing a book at the time too, and that kind of occupied all my time. And by the end of the site, when it finally got shuttered, I wasn't involved at all. So I have a lot of strange feelings about this because it involved so many of my closest friends and really changed my life, and I kind of changed the way I perceive the media. But for all that complexity, I still feel very good about it. If for no other reason, I was able to do this story. I was able to go back and write about something that I almost didn't believe I experienced, but I guess I did.